confrontation there. But now if you do that, you might as well get ready. There's going to be confrontation. There's going to be somebody who's going to come by and they're going to try to corner you on something, or they'll try to confront you with what you're saying or something like that. And you have to be ready for that. Okay? So that is, if any of you feel called a street preacher, make sure you have wisdom to do that. And so we're not knocking street preaching. We're not saying it shouldn't take place. I'm just saying in society we're in now, we have to use wisdom. But at the same time, we still cannot, if God's called us to that, we can't shut it down. But now you have the law to contend with. And there's been cases, case on top of case, where police have come along and you're on a public sidewalk. You have every right, because of freedom of speech. You have every right, but the police have come along and tried to shut some people down because of that. And they themselves got in trouble over that, because what they were doing was unconstitutional. You were shutting down or depriving someone of their right to freedom of speech. And so, but that's the society we're in now. That's where we find ourselves now. So, churchy language with our own peculiar terminology. I'm not going to say it needs to be eliminated from our vocabulary. I wouldn't say that. But we do need to understand that you can't just go out and just use churchy language with the world, because half of them not going to understand what you're talking about. If you go out and testify to somebody who's in the world, who's never darkened the door of church, who's never been raised in church, who's been raised in the atmosphere of the world system, and you go out and say, thank God I'm saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost, they're going to say, well, what is that? They don't even know what saved is. They sure ain't going to know what being sanctified is, and they may not know very much about the Holy Ghost except what they've heard out of context in the movies and literature and stuff like that. So you can't use that terminology with someone in the world like that. You've got to, again, choose your words with wisdom from the Holy Ghost. Choose the words that need to be spoken in the language they understand. And so I'm not saying, between church people, that's fine. We understand the lingo, we understand the language, and we know what it means, but you can't use that same language and lingo in the world system. It will just be beyond their grasp. They wouldn't understand it. So I'm not saying to eliminate it from our vocabulary altogether. But I'm saying, look, even when you name a church, now nowadays it's more common. But in some years not too long ago, it was, even when we were renaming this church, called to Life Family Worship, we had a list of names that came up for consideration. And in one of those names, the word agape. Now, I work for Agape Hospice. I'm a chaplain for Agape Hospice. Agape, we know, is the Greek word for the divine, spontaneous love of God. That's what the word agape means. And so, but like I said, even too many years ago, we kicked that name out, not because the name's not a lovely name, not a wonderful name, and what it means is great. But most people riding down the street who are in the world and don't, most church people, or a good many at least, church people don't even know what the name agape means. And if they saw that on a sign here, you know how they're going to pronounce it? Agape. I wonder what that is. Agape. A-G-A-P-E. Now, when it's written correctly, there's a little mark over the E to let you know this is pronounced agape. And it's a Greek word. But if you put that on a sign, especially if you don't have a little mark over it, most people right down the street look at that and say, Agape Worship Center. No, they'll say Agape Worship Center. What is that? Agape, what does that mean? And even if they can pronounce it, half of them still won't know what agape means. And so if you put a name on a sign, now there are some churches now called Agape Worship Center, or Agape Family Worship, whatever. The term is becoming more and more common. But even in hospice, people still mispronounce our name, going and coming. They'll see my name tag or something. They'll say, what is agape? What is that? It's not a gate, it's agape. And it's the way it's pronounced. And so we need to be careful of names. If we put up Agape Family Worship Center in the Lamar area, odds are I'm not calling the town stupid. I'm just saying that most people in this vicinity, in this area, probably are not going to know what it means. And they wouldn't even know what to think of that name. But if you put Call to Life, Family Worship Center, pretty much anybody can understand that. Pretty much anybody can read that and comprehend that and understand that to some degree. And so the religious lingo needs to be, we need to use, in talk and witnessing to the world and ministering to the world system, we need to use local idioms and cultural media and things like that, like music, fine arts, and they can facilitate evangelistic operations. Now again, there has to be balance in all of this, because there's some music that the world could identify with, idiom-wise and culturally speaking, they could identify with it, but it may not be Christ-honoring. And again, you have to know your history sometimes. This song was on my mind yesterday. You are so beautiful to me. And see, you automatically look at my wife because you think I'm singing a love song. And it is a love song. But do you know that song was not originally written as a pop song? It was originally written as a worship song to Jesus. You can go look up Phil Driscoll, put that song in, look up Phil Driscoll, and he'll tell you the history behind it. Because Phil used to be in rock music. He was a friend of Joe Cocker. And I'm going to remember, I can't remember, I want to say Joe Cocker wrote the song, I'm not for sure. But it was presented, either he wrote it at some point in his life he got saved. And it was written and presented to him, or he wrote it as a worship song to Jesus. And he was singing to the Lord at the piano. You are so beautiful